Hello and welcome back. We are on section 11B in your textbook. It's on page number 235. We're going to go ahead and go over some of the objectives for this section. We're going to compare sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction, identify the following flower parts, and give the function of each. So we'll talk about the sepal, petals, stamen, and pistil. Distinguish between pollination and fertilization in flowers. Describe the structure of a seed. Explain various ways that plants may be pollinated. List several ways in which plants disperse seeds. Describe 3 ways by which plants may reproduce asexually. So we're going to be covering that over the next couple of days. Let's go ahead and begin with looking at plant reproduction. Plant reproduction, we have really 2 different methods: sexual reproduction, the union of 2 gametes, or asexual reproduction, which does not involve gametes. So we have basically the organism splitting. We'll look at that a little bit later on. Sexual reproduction, you remember this from our notes on the cell. Really what's happening with sexual reproduction is we have the union of 2 gametes, these genes coming from 2 parts or 2 parents coming together to form one. So 2 becoming 1. In cellular, we begin with cellular meiosis, which produces the gametes. Those gametes in the male are the sperm and the female are the egg. As we look at the plant, we're going to be talking about the male gamete is pollen and the female gamete is ovum. Now you remember these gametes are haploid cells. They have half of the necessary chromosomes to be able to make a new thing. So these gametes will join together in the process of fertilization. We'll talk about the different processes of fertilization for plants, but really this is simply the union of the sperm and ovum, or the sperm and egg, or the pollen and ovum. And when that fertilization takes place, a zygote or a new living thing is made. In plants, that's a seed. Plants have 2 different types. We have gymnosperms, where the process occurs in cones, and angiosperms, where the process occurs in flowers. All right? So we'll need to know the basic process of sexual reproduction. 2 gametes, one from the male, one from the female, being joined together. Pollen, ovum, joining together. That's the process of fertilization, joining the pollen and ovum, and it forms a zygote or a new living thing. Gymnosperms occurs in cones, angiosperms in flowers. We'll look at the flowers first. Our flower, the color, shape, and odor, every bit of it assist in the reproductive process. Every part of this flower, the color, the shape, the design, the odor that it gives off, it all is part of the reproductive process. You are going to need to know these 4 appendages or parts that are necessary for reproduction in plants. The sepal, here it is, it's this little green thing. These little green things at the bottom, they protect the developing flower. Next is the petal. That's what we normally think of with the flower. We think of these beautiful petals and how soft they are, and they're so pretty, and these are really designed to attract pollinators. You remember some of the videos we've seen where the design of these are going to attract different insects, different animals to help carry that pollen. The stamen. The stamen. Here we see the stamen. There they are. There's the anther and the filament. This is the male part. So this is where the pollen is going to be. And that pollen is going to be kept in the anther. The filament is just basically a long tube that is going to help get that pollen in the anther right where it needs to be for this particular flower. Next we see the pistil. The pistil is this organism, or this little thing right here, this structure, and has 3 different parts in the pistil. There's the stigma right up here at the end. It's the opening, and it helps to catch the pollen. So there's a little opening here, and then a tube, and it's going to catch the pollen, a real sticky surface, and that pollen will be transferred down the style. This is the style, goes all the way down to the ovary. The ovary contains the ovum. That's the female gamete. So what's going to happen here is our flowers are going to pollinate. Our process is real simple. Pollination, fertilization, germination. Pollination, fertilization, germination. When pollination occurs, the pollen that's in the anther is going to fall off, it's going to be carried off, the wind is going to blow it off, it's going to explode and come out in some plants. This pollen will be circulated in the air, some of it will land in the stigma. That's the process of pollination. Pollination is simply transferring pollen from the anther to the stigma. As that pollen goes down the style and it reaches the ovary, and joins with an ovum, that is fertilization. Fertilization. Once that pollen joins the ovum, fertilization has occurred. The seed will then be able to fall to the ground, be carried off, be eaten and digested and dropped somewhere else. But that seed will wind up in the ground. When that seed winds up in the ground, when the conditions are correct, it will begin to germinate. Germination is the beginning of new plant growth from the seed. So when the seed begins to grow, that new plant comes forth from the seed is germination. Pollination, fertilization, germination. Have a great day.